There you see Kim Jong-un, leader of North Korea, is going to be for the first time stepping over into South Korea. It is morning on the Korean Peninsula, a historic one at that. The leaders of North and South are about to meet to negotiate a peace settlement and denuclearization. President Moon shaking hands with Kim Jong-un. Extraordinary moment to see these two leaders, and there Kim Jong-un stepping over into South Korea. That has never happened before, posing there for more photographs on the South Korean side of the DMZ, an area traditionally full of tension. The setting for the summit, the Peace House, which is on the southern side of the demilitarized zone. Seen as Will Ripley and Christian Amanpour join us now. Christian, I want to start off with Will Ripley, who's actually near the DMZ. Will, as we continue to look at these pictures, it's really extraordinary to see these two men continuing to hold hands and now having a discussion.
This is the first time in the history of North Korea that a leader has stepped foot on the south side of the DMZ, and it shows really a new willingness on the part of Kim Jong-un to try to engage with South Korea and really ultimately engage with the United States. This has been a carefully orchestrated thaw that began with North Korea's last missile launch, their intercontinental ballistic missile launch in November. Kim Jong-un and President Moon Jae-in using the Olympics to really kick off this new era of diplomacy, which is such an abrupt U-turn from the military escalation that we've been reporting about for much of the last couple of years. I've been in North Korea many times when they've launched missiles. I've been there just after nuclear tests, and to sit here now and to see Kim Jong-un and Moon Jae-in walking together in Panmunjom towards the Peace House, it is really almost words can't describe what this moment means.
Everybody, Stephen Cloud here, back for another episode. I am joined by my good friend Matt Wizakowski. Me and him are just good friends. We talk every single day, mostly about Tool or A Perfect Circle. And if you guys didn't know, check out A Perfect Circle's new album, Eat the Elephant. It's really, really good. 1950, North Korea invaded the South. And I think you mentioned last time, Matt, that if you look at North Koreans' history books, they'll say they got invaded, but it was obviously them that invaded. So there was the Korean War from 1950 to 1953. I can just mention one incident real quick, and we can talk about others. But in the 80s, South Korea was hosting the Olympics, and North Korea, I guess Kim Jong-il asked South Korea, hey, can the North Korea join the Olympics? It'll be like one big happy family. And South Korea declined. Well, Korean Air Flight 858 was, there was a terrorist attack among board, and the plane was, I think it was crashed into the ground. I forget what happened, but 115 people died. They found 2 suspects in the aftermath of that. And they both know they're about to be caught, so they smoke cyanide cigarettes. The guy dies. The girl lives. She eventually admits to what happened in court, and she was actually pardoned because, you know, just to show how crazy it was there. She was thought to be brainwashed by Kim Jong-il, so there's nothing. It was not really her fault. So she's still actually walking around Seoul today, and she's written a book called "Tears My Soul." Her name is Kim Hyun-hee. But North Korea, I'm glad all this has happened. This is actually amazing news. But North Korea is still in turmoil. They have 120,000 plus people in internment camps that you can see on Google Maps. Well, I guess I'll just introduce my guest first. Hey, how's it going, Matt?
I am living the dream. This morning I woke up today and I saw Kim Jong-un shaking hands with Moon Jae-in. I got a couple of pictures in my email inbox and checking on Reddit of Mike Pompeo shaking hands with Kim Jong-un.
Yeah, I'm actually going to link to some of the stuff at the end. Let me just make a note here to link to that. But yeah, those pictures are out, and they look real. I mean, they look pretty real.
I have no reason to doubt them. And the thing is that in the 21st century, I'm not sure that we've had anything even close to this as far as some sort of peace agreement.
Oh yeah, one thing I just want to mention real quick. I was listening to Michael Malice question and answer. You can go listen to it. It's on Michael Malice's stream on YouTube. But he was asked. Oh no, he was referencing that most people are calling this the first time a North Korean president has crossed the DMZ since the Korean War. And Michael Malice is like, I'm pretty sure this is the first time the North Korean president's crossed the DMZ ever. So I thought that was an interesting point that, yeah, I mean, that it probably is the first time ever. This is very, very historical. I mean, I'm tired. We're recording this late at night, but earlier I was just like, wow, this is very, very good news.
Yeah, and he crossed the demarcation line and then immediately invited Moon Jae-in to come back over to the other side. And there was a bunch of applause from the crowd. And to me, that just gives me a really warm feeling that there's cooperation going on. And who knows? I mean, we've been in a situation where North Korea's, been very deceitful in the past, but I feel different about this particular situation. I think Kim Jong-un has learned from his father and his grandfather that this dictatorship, this complete totalitarian state isn't going to work. And I think he's more afraid that his military or the people will eventually rise up against him if he doesn't fix things. So
well, there's a lot of conspiracies being talked about right now. I mean, I think the obvious one is that Trump called him up and was like, hey, shut it down. We're going to blow you up. We don't, I mean, maybe he worded it like, we don't care about the hostages there. Like, this has got to end. You're starving those people anyway. They're probably better off dead rather than being tortured by you crazy animals. So it could that's one possibility. Another possibility, I have it written down here. Some site collapsed. The nuclear site collapsed. We were talking about that a little bit earlier. Oh yes, the test site collapsed, and that was marking that Kim Jong-un's pretty much done. He has very few moves left. Kill 25 million people, or attempt to, or just try to have some peace. It's just a matter of like how crazy actually is he. Well, we know he's crazy, but is he? I don't think is he crazy enough to throw away the whole country because he was supposed to take after Kim Il Sung's legacy, right?
Right. He's not crazy enough to die. He might be crazy enough to run a dictatorship. But I mean, the fact that he tells President Trump or our government or our press or whoever is reporting this information that they have shut their nuclear test site down, well, they blew it up. I mean, they don't have maybe they have a couple other ones, but it is a little bit, I don't know. You have to take everything with a grain of salt, and especially with because they've lied in the past. That's all.
You can't please everybody, because some people are saying, "Oh my God, if North and South Korea unite now, maybe they'll just become one big nuclear country." So you definitely can't please everybody. Some people look down on this, and it's just crazy. But I mean, we're hoping on a lot here that this is actually not just media hype, because obviously you saw that tweet right after Kim Jong-un supposedly wrote in a piece of paper, like, I forget exactly what he said. Do you remember exactly what he said?
What Trump said?
No, what Kim Jong-un said. He wrote in a little piece of paper and it was tweeted out. I'll try to find that picture. I'll link to that.
I can find it. It said something to the something like today begins a new day of peace.
Yeah, exactly. New day of peace, something like that.
We're going to continue peace and work together, kind of thing. I don't have all the words, but to me it was rather touching, because even though you look at the guy and that he's carried on the legacy of his father and his grandfather, I think he's getting to the point where he's like, this hostility, it's not going to work for us anymore. And I don't know who pressured him, whether it was Trump or a combination of Trump and Xi Jinping. and President Moon in the South. And after the Olympics, he sent his sister down there, and it just seems to me like he wants to be part of the world economy. He wants to be a part of, of civilization again. I think he has some pragmatism about him, and there's a little bit that lingers when it comes to his father and his grandfather and the despotism that has gone on there for such a long time. But he's being pragmatic. He's like, look, Donald Trump, he fired missiles into Syria when the quote unquote red line was crossed. If we cross a red line, what is he going to do to us? And that's another interesting topic that I would like to touch on eventually, because I almost think that the strikes in Syria were more of a message to Kim Jong-un than Bashar al-Assad. That's just my opinion. I don't know. What do you think about that?
No, I definitely agree with you. From what I've researched, I agree. So I guess we'll just kind of get into what happened. It was yesterday for us, but today for them. Pompeo met with Kim over Easter weekend. There are photos to prove it. So like we said, we'll link to those photos. So Rand Paul was, getting beat up because he was supporting Pompeo. Now, I really wasn't watching the news those particular days. What happened with that?
Well, he was against Pompeo, and he was vocally outspoken on the news channels and said that I'm not voting for somebody that wants to stay in Afghanistan. I don't want to vote for somebody that's going to go against what President Trump ran on as a candidate. And a lot of people, including some quote-unquote libertarians, voted for Donald Trump because they wanted to get our asses out of the Middle East. They wanted to leave, and it's not an unpopular opinion. But we just stay there for no apparent reason. And so he's being diplomatic, and what he said is that if you're not going to go along with what the president ran on as a candidate, then I can't support you. So after that, apparently he had a couple of conversations with Donald Trump, and he also had a couple of conversations with Mike Pompeo, and decided that he was going to, because he was on the select committee that was to put Pompeo forward as the nominee for Secretary of State. He was the deciding vote, and he decided to vote yes or okay that Pompeo could take the job. And I've got to feel with Rand a little bit, because look at the photo of Pompeo shaking Kim Jong-un's hand. I mean, the last time we've seen anything like that was Madeleine Albright.
But yeah, funny enough, and I don't know if we mentioned this last episode when we talked about it, Madeleine Albright has a book called Read My Pin. She always has a pin that she wears for every different occasion. And, one of her proud pins is she has this double heart pin where she wore with, I think it was Kim Jong-il or Kim Jong-un?
Yeah, it was his dad.
It was ill. Now, yeah, one thing I also want to mention, Kim Il-sung is really the most important guy, out of all of this. He's about like 1,000 times more important than either of the other two. Kim Jong-il, I think he actually had a speaking difficulty. Like he couldn't speak live because he had like a stutter, like he had some like deficiency with his speech. Kim Jong-un is a decent speaker. He, supposedly he takes after his father in his speech. So Kim Jong-il, wow, he was kind of the middle. I don't know what to call him. He was kind of worthless in that sense. He wasn't really able to talk about things.
Yeah, and I think that's what Kim Jong-un feared when he went ahead and assassinated his brother in Malaysia.
Right.
Like, I don't want to have any defects, and I don't want anybody to deem me unfit to run the country, so I'm going to get rid of any other possible.
Yeah, it was obvious he was getting rid of him, because the only person who can become president is someone who is from that bloodline. And I think the reason they were saying the reason they gave that they executed him was he was going to he was trying to betray the regime, backstab the regime. That's obviously what they're going to say, but they were just killing off any potential people that could take Kim Jong-un's place, and that's kind of obviously what happened.
So do you think that Donald Trump and the sanctions that Xi Jinping helped enforce brought us to this point? Or do you think there's something more to it? Do you think this was inevitable? Or do you think this was something that was kind of forced into being?
Like I said, I think the strongest theory right now is that most likely North Korea's nuclear site collapsed, and Kim Jong-un has, two moves to make. He can either give in or he can just all out slaughter his people. It's a hard read because obviously none of us are over there. All the news we're really getting is just this live media footage. I'm going to link to another video. It's just a 4-hour long video. I don't suggest anyone watch the 4 hours, but you can go there and watch it, and it just shows kind of the whole media coverage. But other than that, a lot of the pictures and stuff came out way later. Like some came out today. Yeah. So
of the meeting today.
Yeah, just more pictures are coming out.
I mean, I got goosebumps looking at them.
Yeah, it's almost surreal because just right after New Year's, it was a tense situation for a long time. I remember I did an episode with my other friend that you were talking about. Are we about to go to war? Whether it's one country or another, it seems like we're about to launch into a war. That's a scary thing. We don't have the money to do this. Osama bin Laden's son was talking about it, and in a speech he was talking about how his father's plan was just to get us involved in wars and drain our resources like he tried to do to Russia. And he pretty successfully did that to Russia.
Well, in the 1980s, we gave Russia their Vietnam. We had it from 65 to 75 or whatever. And our CIA's goal was to give Russia their own Vietnam. And that was Afghanistan. Now we're in that. Korea is a little bit different because it doesn't have this religious fundamentalism. This I'll die before I give up, blah, blah, blah. Kim Jong-un is afraid of dying, and I think he's realizing the fact that if he takes on the United States or even South Korea, for that matter, he's going to get his ass kicked in the long run.
No, I just don't know. How old is that guy? I mean, he must be at least in his 40s, but 33. He's actually that young. When you look at him, he looks like he's probably like 45. I wonder if he's in not too good of health, because who else is there to take his spot? Does he have any kids yet? I don't know.
Well, his sister was the one that was his liaison to the Olympics or whatever, who went to the Olympics to represent North Korea.
He got a lot of attention during that.
And she was also present during the talks today, or yesterday. Earlier today.
But could she become president? That's what I'm trying to figure out, because once Kim Jong-un, who takes their place? Or are they just sitting around confused? Like, what is there a plan in place?
Well, according to Michael Malice's book, Dear Reader, and I'm sure a lot of the listeners have read that book or have at least heard of that book.
He was freaking out of the book when I got into his line, but go ahead.
What do you mean?
No, when I went into his line at the Tom Woods event show, I have a picture of him. He took a picture with me, but he was out of books. That's one book I still don't have a hold of.
Yeah. So I don't know. I brought my own book and had read, I think most of it before he signed it. But anyways, yeah, it was. So what was the question again? I'm sorry. I got kind of distracted.
I'm not editing that out. Matt.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
No, I'm just kidding. Maybe we should just start here. What happened in Korea today? So I'm just going off some notes you put here. Kim crossed the demarcation line at Panmunjom. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correct. Moon crossed back into the north for a quick photo op. And if you go back and watch the video, in fact, for this episode, the beginning of this episode is going to be that video. You can see they offered each other to kind of cross into each other's territory for a quick moment. So that happened. So apparently after that, there was an agreement. Just going off the notes here. Open doors for unification of Korean families separated by political boundaries. What were we talking about there?
Yeah, so let's talk about that a little bit. It looks like, and things were very vague in this. It was a CNN article, and I went through it, and the reason that I went through that is because it said that that was the official statement that came out of the Inter-Korean agency that was, documenting what was said and what was agreed upon. And there is a video online that you can see of Kim Jong-un and Moon Jae-in both signing a peace agreement, basically. And a lot of the things in there said things like, we are going to allow for families to be reunited because they know that they're one people, really. And really, before, you've seen the footage where people try to cross the border and they get shot. They're gonna.
I have not seen that footage, but I don't think I want to, but I believe it exists.
No, of course. No, the North won't let you defect or wouldn't let you defect. So that's something they're going to ease up on. Is not necessarily defection, but the fact that you can travel freely through their borders. So if you go from North Korea to South Korea to visit a family member, you're no longer going to get shot. You just need permission. And they're
talking about a railway between Seoul and Sinuiju.
Right, which is by China. So that's almost a railway where you'd normally have to take an airplane. And some of the railway actually exists in North Korea already, but they're talking about. I know Rothbard would probably roll in his grave, but they're talking about internal improvements, right, that are going to help the rail system out and actually build a rail system that will go from South Korea through North Korea to China. So that's a huge step in the right direction, because
definitely.
If you know anything about North Korean history, you can't even cross the Tumen River without fearing being shot. There's no leaving at all.
I guess unless you can bribe one of the guards who's hungry.
But then your family is held hostage and all that, unless you just have no family. But at the same time, they have agreed now. They're like, okay, yeah, that's kind of BS. We shouldn't do that anymore. And if you want to go to China, go ahead. And if you want to go to South Korea, see your family, go ahead. It seems like they are coming to senses with the fact that they can't hold in this population from technology, from all these other influences from the outside. They can't stop it anymore. In the 40s, it was a lot easier, to stop that kind of information. But now everybody's got cell phones and, mobile devices and tablets, and they're able to change the tuners on their television sets, and they see the Olympics in South Korea, and they're like, wow, that looks amazing. Look at those buildings. How did that get so successful? That doesn't sound anything like our despot said. It's such a hellhole, and the United States is, the imperialist bastards and all. And they see pictures of, Denver, with a beautiful backdrop of mountains in the background, and they're like, well, that doesn't really jive with what we've been taught for our entire life. So they're starting to see these things, and I don't think the leadership can they can't deny that forever. They can't say, oh, no, that's just propaganda. You know what I mean? At a certain point, I think Kim Jong-un is realizing this, is they need to modernize, and they need to catch up with the rest of the world. And that's the only way that he's going to have any meaningful, position in power in the future, because information is seeping in faster than they can control.
I guess one thing that's fueled a lot of the tension over the past few years, especially, is all the propaganda messages transmitted. And you have written down here that as of May, all those propaganda messages will end on both sides. That'd be a pretty huge concession.
They have decided that as part of the agreement, as of yesterday, that they will no longer be broadcasting any propaganda from either side. So those speakers that have been playing South Korean pop songs or North Korean, dictatorial poems or messages or whatever, that's all done.
I mean, wouldn't the hilarious thing that would happen is propaganda comes out from one side and the other side claims that the other side created the propaganda. Like, it would just be kind of circular. I don't know. I mean, that'd be really good if it all stops, but I imagine some people trying to frame one another. That's I could be pretty troll, so that would be the first thing I would think to do.
So Stephen Clyde's like, we're on a peace agreement. We're really close. I'm gonna put on a message that really pisses those fuckers off.
Oh, maybe I take that idea back. All right, the DMZ is going to be converted into a peace zone, and you have written here, quote, "What does this mean? What does that mean? A peace zone? Like, it's pretty hard to believe that our troops would be taken out. It just almost seems like that wouldn't happen, even if peace did occur. Both sides wanted peace, and it's just like, troops, will you leave? It's like, no, we're just gonna we're just gonna watch. We'll just stand over here, just make sure you guys are cool."
No, you're absolutely right. And here's the deal: they have like thousands of pieces of artillery that are pointing right towards Seoul that are located in the DMZ. This is the north. But they did commit to a quote unquote phasing out of those weapons. Now, whether that, it probably starts with the nuclear program, and then slow.
What does phasing out even mean, though? I mean,
it's very vague. You're right. It's very vague.
It's kind of like when you're dealing with like inflation. Like, if you're still producing them, but you're getting rid of them, like, you could just produce more than you're getting rid of, and you're actually like still adding some.
Well, and I hate to be the the Fox News person, but trust but verify, right? You need to, if you're going to be dealing with somebody like that and they say, yep, we're going to cooperate, we're going to decommission all these pieces of artillery, we're going to decommission, whether or not they blew the place up accidentally or not, our nuclear test site or sites, we're going to stop doing that. You need to watch via your satellites, which we have the capability to do, whether or not they're actually following through with that. And if they're lying to us, then of course, I mean, the worst case scenario, in my opinion, is that they're lying to us. But I just have such a doubt that they are. I mean, I don't know. Why would they? It's kind of like Assad, and as soon as he's about to defeat Al Qaeda and ISIS in Syria, he just gasses a bunch of people. And I mean, I'm
pretty sure that's been confirmed that didn't happen.
I mean,
it obviously wasn't him.
What I've heard is that there was kind of a bombing campaign going on at the time, and there was gunfire being exchanged, and there was a dust storm. I mean, you're in the middle of the desert, and all of a sudden these white helmets who potentially work for jihadi outfits or whatever come rushing out, and they conveniently have video cameras, and they're like, oh, chemical attack. So everybody runs into these tunnels and into the hospital, and they're all being washed down, but nobody has any proof that there was any chlorine or sarin or anything like that. So I don't know how I got quite off track there, but
no, it's fine.
I mean, we need to trust but verify. So if we're going to listen to Kim Jong-un and say, okay, you're going to shut down the nuclear program, you're going to stop with we're going to wipe America off the map type shit, okay, but let's just keep an eye on him. You know what I mean? I don't think he in his right mind, and I think he's rational enough to not attempt something like that. I think he would be an idiot to do that.
I think this is all most likely happening. I think that's kind of what's hard to take in, is this is most likely happening. There most likely is going to be some type of peace agreement that happens. And what can we say? They met, they shook hands, they wrote little love letters to each other, essentially. So another thing you have written down here that I thought was interesting is you're talking about no more leaflets will be dropped by either country. So what are leaflets, first of all? And obviously we've all heard about different things being dropped in either country.
Well,
packages or food or whatever.
obviously a leaflet. If you think back to World War II, we were dropping leaflets in Germany trying to denounce Nazism, and they're kind of doing the same thing now. I don't know if it's the United States or South Korea, but they're trying to drop leaflets telling everybody.
Is it just a package of goods? Is that all it is?
A leaflet really just is a pamphlet or a piece of paper that's folded.
Okay. Okay, I gotcha.
Just dump it from the sky, a whole like a million of them, and it all says,
Right.
North Korea is screwing you. If you want to get away, here's how you do it. You know what I mean? So they're going to stop doing that. And they're going to stop doing that on the other side, where the North is like, it's way better up here. You know what I mean? So they're going to stop the disinformation campaigns.
You got to wonder, what do the people in North Korea know at this point? Because they don't really have much access to electricity, nonetheless, internet access. So do the people in North Korea think they're about to be set free? That's just something I thought of right now, but it's impossible to know.
Question: if Kim Jong-Un is benevolent, then they shouldn't have to worry about that. But if he's scared and finally it has been pushed to the brink, he is, because everybody's onto him. You know what I mean?
Do you think you would pass a peace treaty and like not inform anybody? Just everybody's just still in the dark, still suffering, still starving, still getting their family members taken out randomly. I
very much doubt that. If he's going to come out,
basically what we're saying is like things have got to give at this point. Things have got to change.
It's at the breaking point. I honestly think that the reason, it's not just because of Trump. He isn't some, the art of the deal guy that's just going to be able to magically make things happen. I think the time has come for Korea, and I do credit Trump, even though I don't know 100%, with his pressure on China.
It's beautiful to think about, but imagine one day we can look at Google Maps and like a nighttime view and like see North Korea lit up with electricity too. That'd just be a beautiful thing. It can happen. All they got to do is free their people.
All they got to do is open up their markets and stop the central planning BS and stop the demagoguery and stop this dictatorial attitude that they have already. They have to stop Songbun, which is their military first policy. They need to stop the Juche, which is this self-reliance type ideology that they have, that they tell everybody, yeah, we're self-reliant. Well, as soon as sanctions get slapped, you're not all that self-reliant. In fact, you live in a part of the world that isn't arable and can't produce enough crops for everybody to live. So you need to be able to trade.
Yeah, I think we haven't mentioned China enough, because I'll just mention one of Trump's tweets from the other day, or maybe it was just actually from today. Please do not forget the great help that my good friend President Xi of China, who has given to the United States, particularly at the border of North Korea. Without him, it would have been a much longer, tougher process. And one thing that's really important to remember is China doesn't want 20 or 25 million immigrants flowing into their country. So China has a big incentive to prevent that happening, to actually help reunite South Korea, because Koreans and Chinese, they have different cultures. They're not all Asian people are the same. Like, they have different languages, meaning it would be very, very difficult for them to like just mesh all of a sudden. It wouldn't work.
I think they're all Chinese. No, seriously. But yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, a person who is malnourished in North Korea that just happens to cross into Manchuria in China, that's like,
which does happen. I mean, you're smacking in the middle of a country that you can't speak the language. I wonder if a lot of people who know they're going to go try to learn some Chinese before.
Well, okay, so here's the popular way of getting out. This was, we had mentioned this before. It was in the book Nothing to Envy by Barbara Demick. And in that book, basically everybody who escaped had what was called a broker. And that broker had somebody on the other side of the river, the Tumen River, in China, who would take somebody in for a couple of weeks, 3 weeks, whatever, and plump them up a little bit, feed them as much as possible. Because if they had just crossed into China, they'd be like, wow, you totally stick out like a sore thumb. They'd provide them with clothes, whatever, to try to fit in as much as possible so they could eventually make their way out of China and then defect to South Korea. So, yeah, absolutely. You stick out like a sore thumb. At least you did. And I hope that is what is going to be fixed through this. I'm not necessarily thinking that reunification or a single Korea is going to be a viable option or viable solution in our lifetime. Perhaps it will, and that would be wonderful. But I would really like to see markets open up in the North and to see people be able to exchange goods and respect property rights. And like we were talking about before, like handing out copies of Man, Economy, and State to some of these people that is translated into Korean.
Well, I mean, I think at this point it's just like, I hope nobody's messing with us. Like, I think I want to cut the episode short here because maybe in a few days we can come back and just see where things have progressed, because I'm hoping we don't wake up tomorrow and it's just like, oh, peace deal shot. They had an argument, like everything's called off. Like, I don't want to jump the gun here. I don't want to jinx it, but I right now it feels like this is really happening. So I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to add before we hop off here, but thanks again for I needed to put out 2 episodes today because it's been a busy week for me, and sometimes I just put out 2 episodes on Friday. And I asked Matt earlier, like, hey, you want to do this episode? And he's like, do bears poop in the woods? Like, yeah, they do.
Yeah, absolutely. I always love doing episodes with you and talking about relevant subjects. Yeah, things could change in the next couple of days. It could be completely different. But the outlook now looks very optimistic. I think we agree that the whole Syria issue, we should have stayed out.
Let's just touch on one more thing real quick, because how does North Korea get a lot of their aid? And what I'm trying to say is, how does Kim Jong-un eat? Because he obviously has to get resources in from somewhere. Maybe we've just gotten everybody else around North Korea to kind of starve them off, or maybe there's some kind of behind the deal thing saying like, hey, your food's about to stop coming in unless like we sign a treaty right now. And Kim Jong-un, being this big fat dictator, he's like, oh, I couldn't go a day without my carbs. So that's just one thing I want to talk about for just 2 minutes before we hop off.
It's either carbs or liquor, man. He really
or both, yeah.
He really likes his American liquor. So do I.
Oh, you look at pictures of him just a few years ago. He got big in a few years.
Yeah,
real big.
He did. I guess I'm not so worried about him personally. I'm just worried about the peninsula in general, and I want to see those people be free.
Yeah, man. All right, well, thanks a bunch, Matt, for coming on, and maybe we'll have you back on in a few weeks to discuss what's going on in North Korea. I mean, hopefully these people can eventually live in peace one day, be able to experience free markets and free trade. That's obviously the message we try to spread here. So
it is. If we could get that in America, that'd be nice too.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's take 2 steps forward and 0 steps back. That sounds more pragmatic than let's give and take. And yeah.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. And until you can get Michael Malice on the show, I will be your #1 North Korea expert.
I am never going to ask Michael Malice to come on the show. Not because I don't love him, because like I just know he's the type of person, he really doesn't talk to people he doesn't know. Like when I was at the 1000th episode event for Tom Woods, like he passed by me and I said hi to him, and he said hi back, but he was just like, he looked at me like, why'd you ask me this? Like I don't know you. I don't care to know you. Like that's he's hilarious. I love Michael Malice, but I don't think, unless I like get to know him in person, I would never ask him. I know what answer I would get.
I suppose. I kind of feel the same way, and he's expressed that publicly, that he's not, all that personable or whatever. But he and Tom Woods, they get a great, they get together.
Oh, I get all the entertainment.
They get along really, really well. So apparently there's something there. And I guess I'm kind of similar in a way that I don't like being around people that bore me. I like being around people that stimulate my,
I have a lot of people that private message me on Facebook all the time, and I never respond because these people are just like, they're really, really nice. Like, I'm glad they're interested in libertarianism, but just because you're libertarian doesn't mean you have anything to talk about at all, ever.
Yeah, no, that's very true. And there's very, very differing views of libertarianism. I'm reading currently For a New Liberty by Murray Rothbard, which I bet you got it back there. There you go.
I have the big giant version. Honestly, I want to. Can someone out there send me a smaller version before I order one? Because I just carrying this big book around.
Is that for old people?
I don't know, man. Like, I should send this to my grandmother and order myself the smaller version.
Oh my God. Yeah, no, I don't know what the Mises Institute is up to. God bless them. But how many people wear bifocals that need to be reading these books? I don't know. They're all over Amazon, and you really have to be careful that you don't order the large print version. So anyways,
maybe it's cheaper, like maybe like more bigger pages, like you could fit more, and like maybe it's cheaper. Just I don't know.
I'd rather die.
Yeah, so I love For a New Liberty. I think it's one of Rothbard's best books, but yeah, I want the smaller version. All right, Matt. Thanks so much for coming on, man. We'll talk to you again soon.
All right, buddy.
All right.
See ya.
Stephen Clyde here from the Peace and Liberty podcast. As always, Peace and Liberty. Hey everyone, please like, follow, donate, subscribe, and share. Any donations will be used to reach more people.